A white man broke in today.
A white man? No! Well, what does security do about it?
Nothing.
Typical!
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, so finally, Ilhan Omar has responded. She's finally addressed all the attention and criticism that she's received for her vile anti-white 2018 comments, where she went on Al Jazeera and was essentially making the argument that people should be fearful of white men, and she attempted to make the argument that white men were the real terror threat in America. Well, she's addressed the comments, and rather than apologize, she's of course doubled down and now made everything worse, of course, in true Ilhan Omar fashion. Her ignorance, pride, and narcissism seem to see no bounds. Let me show you guys her lackluster response, where she essentially continues to race bait, weaponize grievance, and promote double standards. Ilhan Omar continues to be the president of Clown World. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so first we gotta set the stage. Here's the infamous Al Jazeera clip from 2018, where Ilhan Omar says with a straight face that Americans should fear white men because apparently they're doing most of the killing and violence.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. And so if fear was the driving force of policies to keep America safe, Americans safe inside of this country, we should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
Yeah, that's what she said. And again, I want to reiterate that this was said back in 2018. It's a pretty old clip. There's a lot of people who are trying to misrepresent it as if she said this recently. She did not. Important context. But now the clip is resurfaced. It's going viral again. I guess within the context of 2025, during a time where we've had many years of data and her, nonsense argument is basically being debunked. Ilhan Omar is taking all kinds of heat for this comment, and not just from the right, but also from the left. James Carville said this.
Lady, why don't you just get out the Democratic Party? Honestly, start your own movement. Roughly 69% of the people going to vote in November, maybe more. Let's do 70 for just round math, are going to be white. Of that, 48%, maybe a little more, are going to be male. So that's roughly, let's just call it 33.33% of the entire election. Well, let's just run against them because that's so goddamn smart. So now we're going to have a campaign by the progressive left against white men who vote about a third of everybody that votes in an election. Why don't you, lady, start your own party? And then when it's over, if you want to caucus with the Democrats, fine. We agree with a lot of things that you do, but we don't believe we ought to be running against white men. In fact, we don't think we ought to be running against any gender, any ethnic group, any race, any religion, or anything else. Goddamn, these people are just helpless. They cannot be helped. There's nothing you can do to help them. They don't want to be helped. And if they had any guts, they'd start their own goddamn political party and get out of ours.
And J.D. Vance, using his position as the vice president of the United States, went after Ilhan Omar, claiming she was using genocidal language, and also said, what a disgrace this person is. So basically, she's taking all kinds of heat over the comments. And probably the smart thing to do, especially when you're so in the wrong, would be to either shut up, pretend like it never happened, and hope that it goes away, or, maybe try to stop being such a divisive race grifter and try to bring people together. Maybe apologize, take accountability for your words, but no, Ilhan Omar makes it even worse. Here's her response.
We know that he doesn't really have anything to do as the vice president. All you do is just make sure you're waiting, waiting to be the errand boy for a president that's incompetent. And so there aren't that many errands for him. So he's become the reply guy. That's kind of what, what he does. He's in everybody's mentions. And it is quite unfortunate. It's also unfortunate that he didn't understand, like, the point I was trying to make about the irony of trying to profile a racial group depending on, what violent crimes that are committed by an individual, and then saying, like, okay, a Muslim guy killed somebody, so we're going to now profile all Muslims, or a white guy kills someone, now we're going to profile all of them. Like, that's what that was my point. You don't have to go far. You could just look at the comments. Like, every response is with a graph of, like, how violent, Black men are. And it's like, oh, so you're comfortable by constantly denigrating and creating this image that, a certain group is violent, and that is your response to being triggered by, like, stats.
Yeah, so no apology, no clarification, not even close. She's just lashing out at JD Vance, calling him a reply guy. So the vice president is active on social media, and that now means that he's a reply guy. He's no better than Brian Krasenstein. What a stupid comment. But then she goes on to mock all the people who are refuting her claims with stats and says that those people are just triggered by the stats or whatever. What? I mean, how hypocritical is that? Because it seems like the only person who's actually triggered by the stats is Ilhan Omar, who can't handle the fact that she's wrong about the stats and that the stats show something completely different. Her go-to statistic is from the ADL, which is, of course, the left's favorite fear-mongering machine, which claimed that white supremacists were responsible for 78% of extremist murder in 2018, 1 year. It sounds serious, right? Well, it is until you realize that that number represents maybe 50 killings in a specific year out of 16,000 homicides. That's 0.3%. But somehow that's the basis for a national freakout over white men. You are off your freaking rocker, woman. Listen to the people who are debunking your nonsense. Nobody's triggered by your stats. You're just misrepresenting the stats and blowing a specific part of the report that doesn't track outside of that 2018 dataset in order to demonize an entire group of people. Meanwhile, the actual stats that are triggering her are the FBI statistics that track throughout the decades. Let's say the 13% to 55% phenomenon. Yeah, people think you're a hypocrite for attempting to fearmonger to tell people that they should be fearful of white men. Meanwhile, look at the crime that's happening in your own city. Violence that you clearly, conveniently ignore because it doesn't fit your racial narrative. And she's sitting here lecturing us that you shouldn't use racial groups as scapegoats, as she's literally defending her white man scapegoat, which is of course her favorite punching bag. She was claiming that we should develop policies to combat the radicalization of white men. Imagine if somebody said that about any other group. It would be career-ending. But of course not for Omar, no. As we know, she's protected by the woke double standard. What an utterly pathetic defense. She's done absolutely nothing to justify or validate her claims, and now she's trying to spin it as if she's the victim. You're not a victim, Ilhan. You're basically exactly what JD Vance described you as. You're an absolute disgrace, just as you've always been. Keep in mind, this is the exact same woman who referred to 9/11 as, just some people doing something.
CARE was founded after 9/11. Because they recognize that some people did something.
She's an absolute disgrace to the office, a disgrace to the party, a disgrace to the country, and frankly a disgrace to anybody who actually believes in justice or real equality. So no, Ilhan, we're not triggered by your stats. We're disgusted by your double standards, your race baiting, and your complete lack of accountability. And I know you think you're so much smarter than everyone, and you're maneuvering this like an expert and flipping the script, but you're not. Every time you open your mouth, more people see exactly who you are. You're really not as slick as you think you are. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.